Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be installing the low-rise blacked out aftermarket muffler. The muffler comes with the muffler, piping, as well as some mounting hardware. The tools that we're going to need for this install is going to be an extended 10mm socket, as well as a 14mm socket. It might also be helpful to have a regular sized 10mm socket as well, a wrench for the sockets. You're gonna need a hex key or a hex screwdriver for one of the mounting pieces. And there is also a chance that we will need to cut a little bit of the plastic. That way the piping for the muffler can fit underneath the Honda Navi. We might not, we'll see once we get there. So stay tuned. Let's move this camera over, that way we can get started. For the factory muffler, there are a few parts that we're going to have to remove, that way we can take it out. Up here, there is a 10mm screw. This one right here is gonna be one of the 14. Same with down here, that's gonna be a 14. Underneath, at the very bottom, there are two 10mm screws, but they are longer, so we will need the extension 10mm socket for those. You can see one's the really bright blown out, and the other one has a little bit of yellow on the tip. I retightened the one back here a little bit. That way, as I remove these, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on the mount underneath the motorcycle. And I'll probably actually get those first before I fully take off these ones out here on the exterior. What this is, it is surprisingly heavy. So the first thing I'm going to do for the new muffler system is install the piping, because I might need to trim this little bit of plastic here. If not, that would be great. If I do have to, I'll make it work. Alright, so the pipe's installed. I am going to saw off just a little bit so there's a little more clearance. Alright, just relax. I'm curious how it sounds with no muffler, so I'm going to turn it on and we're going to see. I gotta lie, it sounds funny, but it's whatever. Alright, so after, make sure that's not too hot. After getting the pipe installed, now we need to install the actual muffler. There is a little piece that you want to make sure goes in the muffler. Line up the springs and plug it in like that. The muffler is installed now, so let's give it a try with that on. The next part is there's this little metal extending arm right here that's going to go into the lower socket. I do need to be careful. The muffler's a little warm. It's not super hot though. Alright, so I ran into a bit of an issue with the old hardware. So if you notice, there's the screw right here. So go focus. And that screw has a really wide part. And when plugging it into the arm, it still has some of that unthreaded part sticking out. Now, there were two washers. One was on this screw, the other was on the other screw. But even with those two rock washers, the unthreaded part sticks out. Unfortunately, I don't have any washers. Well, I do, but they aren't wide enough for that unthreaded part. Thankfully, though, I found the washer from the old clutch. So I'm using that to then extend the threads, and then the washer that doesn't quite make it there to get all the way. Super janky, but it should work. Alright, so for installing the extending arm, you do want to leave it a little loose. That way you can adjust it to be able to reach to the clamp that will go around the muffler. For installing the catch arm for the muffler, you are going to need a 7/32, so that's 7/32 hex key to hold the backside, as well as a 13mm to screw in the bolt that's on the front side. So those are two more things you will need for this install. Alright, and that is the installation of the blacked out low-rise aftermarket muffler for the 2022 Honda Navi. The tools that I ended up needing was a 10mm extended head. That way I could remove two bolts that were underneath connecting the piping to the engine, a 7/32 hex key, as well as a 13mm bit for connecting this clamp right here to that bolt. Then I needed a 14mm to remove a bolt here as well as down here, and then reapply that bolt. There was a 10mm for this one right up here, which we don't need anymore. I also used a oscillating saw to trim the plastic down here. It was not touching the metal for the muffler, but I didn't want it too close, and then sanded it down a little bit so it would be smooth, not a chance of cutting oneself. A flashlight also helps a lot, as well as a impact wrench.